Hello and welcome to Eastwick's Paper and Ink. My name is Katie and today I'll be showing you how to create this simple yet stunning card using some distress ink, Nuvo Glimmer paste, and a stencil. Let's get started. So here I'm using some Bristol Smooth cardstock. I've used some repositionable spray adhesive on my stencil and I'm just going to place that down. The distress inks today we're going to be using are mustard seed, spice marmalade, and fired brick. And to apply them, I'm going to be using a makeup blending brush similar to the life-changing blending brushes. Here we're going to start with mustard seed. And we're just going to apply that to the center of the stencil and radiate that out a little bit. And as you can see, I'm not applying a lot of heavy pressure. Bristol Smooth is perfect for ink blending because it really doesn't take a lot of work. The coating that's on there, it makes it really easy, as well as these types of brushes. Next we're going to apply our spice marmalade. And in between I'm just wiping off my brush onto a dry microfiber cloth. What's nice about these brushes is that no matter how stained and dirty they get, as long as you wipe them clean on the cloth where you don't see any ink transfer, they're good to go. You're going to see here in a minute I flip my brush over and it's almost black and it doesn't affect the ink at all. So now we're going to move on to the fired brick. And we're just going to add that to the outer petals. The stencil I'm using today is from Simon Says Stamp. It's the Solar Burst. And I just think it's really pretty. I wanted to do something with fall colors, and these three colors go really well together. And once we add the glimmer paste, it really makes it pop with the glitter that's inside that Nuvo paste. So you can see I'm just wiping off my brush. I am going to apply a second layer of color. I want to deepen the yellows and the oranges and the reds, because once we add that glimmer paste, it really deepens those colors. It's really quite spectacular. And you can see with these brushes, what's nice about them, I'm going in all different directions. I'm not necessarily going in a circular motion. You'll see that more so when I get to the red again, the fired brick, because I'm going to bring that out into the white a little bit more. I will be trimming this panel down, which right now is a 5.5 by 7, but I'll be trimming that down using some layering dies to a little under A2 size. So now I'm adding the fired brick, and I'm going to start filling in those outer pieces. The other distress ink that we're going to be using today is antique, it's not antique linen, it's vintage photo, I believe it is. And that's going to warm it up a little bit more and tie in the brown cardstock that we're going to use as the card base. And you're going to see here in a minute that like right here, it's a little bit streaky, but that's okay because we're going to be, like I said, using a layering die to trim this down, so that won't be affected. Plus, the card's homemade. Sometimes you make mistakes and things don't blend the way that you want them to. And if you keep working it, it smooths out a little bit, but it's okay. We're going to be cutting that away anyway. So I'm just going to add a little bit more. And just fill in some of those spots, just so it's not quite so stark. And once we get done here, this is going to be the last little bit that we put on of the fired brick. And then we're going to go ahead and add our glimmer paste. And the glimmer paste I'm using is the Moonstone. And I just love it. It's wonderful. I love how it takes on the colors that you're using. This card could easily be done in greens and yellows and blues. And that would look really pretty as well. What's nice about these colors here is this can also be used as a masculine card. It's very warm. And once we add this glimmer paste, it's going to kind of glow because of the iridescent glitter that's in there. They really pick up the reds and the oranges, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. So as you can see, I'm not being careful. You'll see that there's a little bit of yellow. I am going to scrape that little bit extra off that's on the top there so I can use that. I don't want any of this stuff to go to waste. And there'll be a little bit left on my palette. You'll be able to see that it's a yellowy orange. You don't want to keep that. So you're just going to put that on a paper towel and discard it. And then we're going to take our stencil off. I have a little tub of warm water that's off to the side that I'll put my stencil in to let soak while I finish up doing the card. That way the Nuvo paste won't dry on it. I'm going to be using the Thinking of You die. While my panel dries off to the side, I'm going to speed this video up while I cut out our Thinking of You die. This is also from Simon Says Stamp, as you saw. It's a very tedious process, and I thought I'd speed it up so you wouldn't be bored to tears while I cut out and piece everything together. The cardstock I'm using today is the Gina K dark chocolate cardstock, and I am going to cut this out 3 times to stack the words 3 times to give it a bit of dimension. I want to keep it somewhat simple so that the focus can be on the background as well as the sentiment. They'll both get equal attention. And here I'm just picking up my pieces and my words. I'm checking on my panel to see how it's drying. You do want to make sure you let that dry, especially in my case because I'm going to be running it through the die cutting machine and trimming that panel down with some layering dies. Here I'm just using some of my art glitter glue to apply each stack of words together. When using glue, you really don't need a lot, especially if you're using art glitter glue. In fact, you can't really tell in the scene that I'm not even squeezing the bottle. I'm just letting gravity pour it out. And you'll see here in a few minutes that I'll bring up the letter Y and show you exactly how much glue is on there. It really doesn't take that much. It's just very, very little. And while art glitter glue dries quickly, it really more so dries quickly once you apply something to it. So when you're working with paper, you want to make sure that you're quick with your adjusting so that everything will piece together properly. And now I'm using some Gina K dark chocolate cardstock as my card base, so I'm just scoring that at 4 1/4. I got some ink there on my mat, so I'm just going to wipe that down. We're going to seal that crease once I get that wiped up. And that's card panel is 5 1/2 by 8 1/2. And I'm just taking the vintage photo and I'm going to apply it to the top part of each word just to darken it a little bit, give it a little ombre effect. It's not that easy to see the difference on camera, but darkening it up really made a difference. And I'm just going to go through and do each word. And the mat that I'm using is the Tonic Easy Clean mat, the mini one that goes with the Tim Holtz media mat. I absolutely love this little mat. It's perfect. I'm just going to wipe that down, put that off to the side. And now we're going to use the Waffle Flower A2 layering dies. We're going to use the second one from the largest down, and that's going to trim out the inside panel for the inside of the card, which is where our sentiment will go. And then we're also going to use that for our card panel for the front of our card. I'm taking some vintage photo and just softening up the edges a little bit because the Bristol Smooth is more white than off-white. The white layering paper looked a little bit stark, so this softened it up a little bit so that it wasn't so harsh. And now I'm just adjusting and seeing where I want this to cut out. Lining everything up. And once we get that taken care of, we'll move the big shot out of the way, flip our panel around. I got a little bit of brown cardstock shards in the glitter, but that just scraped right away. I'll have to do that a couple of times because there were some pieces stuck in some of the nooks and crannies. And I am going to add some vintage photo to the outside of this panel also to tie in that brown cardstock as well. And this really warms it up as well. I just love the look of this. It's a perfect fall card with these colors. And it's nice and warm and glowy. I think it's absolutely stunning. So now I'm just laying my words out to see how I want to place them. And I am going to pop this up on a piece of fun foam. I'm going to add my score tape. It's 1.5 inch wide. And I will have to trim that foam panel. I'm sorry, my camera got a little wonky there with the blur. I am going to trim this down just with my scissors just to take a little bit off because it was exactly the width of my card panel, and I don't tend to put things on straight, so I didn't want to risk it. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that away. But save those pieces if you ever do that, because you can just put a little bit of tape on the other side and then you got yourself some double-sided tape, foam tape. And I'm going to adhere that to my card panel. struggling a little bit to get my tape, the release paper off. Even though score tape sticks very well to everything, initially when it's on foam it doesn't necessarily want to play nice. So here I am just adding a little bit more to the back so that I can add that panel to our chocolate brown cardstock. I'm using just a little straight-sided block to tear my tape. I just find that to be a lot cleaner and neat. And then we're going to take that tape off and add our panel to our cardstock. And we're almost finished with the card. I want to thank you so much for joining me today, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to share and subscribe, and please leave me a comment below and tell me what you think. Once I adhere my panel, we're going to add our thinking of you and a couple little embellishments, some enamel drops that I picked up at Michael's. And again, just very, very easy on the glitter glue. What's nice about liquid glue is you do get a little bit of playing time, but with art glitter glue, I'd cut it in half. And if you've never used art glitter glue before, make sure if you ever want to try it that you order it when the weather is warm. It is a water-based glue, and it does get hard in certain temperatures, colder temperatures. Some places, including Art Glitter Glue's website, will only ship during certain times of the year because it can harden in colder temperatures. So you just want to keep that in mind when you're ordering. And now we're just adding the of. And I really, really just love how this card turned out. Once I show it in the light, you'll see the glitz and glimmer is just spectacular. Okay, so I'm just pushing that down. What's nice about art glitter glue too is it dries so quickly and adheres that you don't even need a block to put it on. If you just press it down firm enough, as you continue on, everything will adhere just fine. And I'm just going to dot our eyes. And I'm struggling to pick up the last eye, little dot for the eye. I use the tip of my reversible tweezers to pick those up, which work really good. They're nice and pointy, so it kind of sticks them right in. And now, I picked up these a while back. I'm going to use those goldeny bronze glittery enamel dots. I just thought they'd look perfect with these colors to add just a little bit more glitz and embellishment to the card today. And I have a couple there, so if I end up doing a blue-green combination, I have some other ones that'll go well with that as well. And there I'm just picking off some of the brown little shards of paper that were on there. And you see that shimmer and how it picks up that golden yellow and the orange. And now we're just going to adhere our inside panel for writing our sentiment. Now, I normally stamp something inside. For this one I didn't. My husband wants to mail this out to friend of his mom who was recently diagnosed with cancer, and I wasn't exactly sure what he wanted to say or if he wanted to just have all that space to write something. So I may stamp something later, but for now we're just going to keep it blank. And we're just taking that release paper off, and dusting our paper off, and then we're just going to add that to inside our card. And again, I'm sorry for the blur. I don't know what happened there. And that wraps it up for our card today. I do hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up if you like this, so that I know that it's something you're interested in and you'd like to see more of. And don't forget to leave a comment below. Links for products will be in the description box below. And I want to thank you again for joining me, and I hope you have a wonderful day.